Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends, an authentic podcast where we sit and discuss all things spiritual. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends. This is my podcast. I'm Christy Godwin, a psychic medium, and these are my beautiful friends, Jolene Brown and Cathy Cacioppo.
Yes. Woohoo.
So before we go, just so y'all, a little background for everyone watching. Before we go on, I always have Cathy help me pronounce her last name. It's this beautiful Italian name, and I never want to butcher it. It's just beautiful. Yeah. But Cathy says it with this beautiful kind of tongue roll or something, the way she says it.
Those Italians.
Yeah.
Yes. So now for everyone watching or listening, if you've watched any of my podcasts before, these ladies have joined me. Cathy has a very unique aspect and history because she was a nun for 10 years. And then Jolene is just beautiful, heart and soul of her business. She is a hairstylist and she does therapy with people every day just because of what she does.
Oh, nice.
We were here talking about boundaries today. And so we're taking a little bit different spin on boundaries. By the time this podcast come out and you're listening to it, it will be pretty public knowledge that I was diagnosed with the breast cancer. And I was telling Jolene and Cathy about it, and we were really talking about boundaries and how it's so hard to know what the right thing to say is. Yes, and so I'm going to ask them real quick. I've put them on the spot. I don't know. I'm going to ask them this. Now, whenever someone tells y'all news like this, both of you, like if it's something they've had a terrible health diagnosis, they've lost a friend, they've lost a loved one, or someone they love has had a bad diagnosis, what is your go-to? What is your go-to words for them?
Of course, you're very sorry. I am here for you. Whatever you need, I will help you with. And I'm not going to try to tell them what to do or tell them what I think they need to hear. I want them to talk to me and me talk to them. And I'm going to be listening and be an ear for them and be supportive in anything they need.
Very good. What about you, Cathy?
I learned some time ago, it's called being a non-anxious presence. You're present. You're there, kind of just what taking off of what Jolene said is I'm here. Actually, sometimes you have to test the waters, saying nothing and just being close. If they want a hug, or just be there. And I think I have learned I don't say how you're doing. Because I had several people, but one in particular, her 21-year-old son took his life. And I made up my mind I was not going to say how you're doing, because I know her, she'd say, well, how the hell do you think I'm doing?
Exactly.
And I love that, actually.
Yeah, I don't. So that's kind of pretty much
it. And like being an ear for them, sometimes saying less and just listening is so much better.
Yes. I will attest to that. And, and just before I had my own diagnosis of the cancer, one of my kids had cancer growing up. So I had been exposed to that, telling people. And of course, in my industry, I'm a medium. I read people, I meet with people who have lost loved ones. And so I get to hear their side of it. And, I will agree with your ladies. What I hear the most that people want to hear is, I love you. I'm here for you. And it's also, I think, kind of reading the room or reading the person. And everyone can do that. You don't have to be a psychic medium to just know what you feel like someone wants to hear.
Exactly. Again, just listen, talk less and listen more.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that is so perfect. And I know that people are, for the most part, well-meaning. Most people, they're well-meaning. They want to love on you. But some of the things, and I'm in two different worlds. I really straddle two different worlds. I am like, as I have right here, right here on my shelf and within arm's reach, a Bible.
Uh-huh.
Also, I am in the spiritual community. I will, side note, I will tell you that the other day someone said to me, and I've had it said several times before, but it just really hit me the way this gal said it, that she had never realized spiritual people, psychic mediums, were so in tune to God until she met me. For whatever reason, people think if you're a psychic medium, you don't believe in God.
Well, yeah, that's what I've been taught.
Or you don't believe, right? Or you don't believe in the afterlife. We spend
Yeah.
most of our time in the
Yeah.
afterlife.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So
And-
true.
Uh-huh.
and hanging out in the God realm. So of course
Mhm.
we will, believe in, and some people, I use the term God because that's what I use. Other people use another word for it, whether it is source or universe, whatever their word is for it, it all boils down to the same thing.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I straddling both of these worlds, I will get it from my Christian friends that basically I need to be closer to God. And in my head, I'm thinking, honey, there's not very many people who spend more time with him than me.
I was going to say, how could you get closer to God?
These ladies are so sweet because they've been around me a lot and they watch me read and they watch me do a lot of things. And I always try to come at everything in my life from a love vibration. And, this morning I've already been in meditation for 45 minutes and I'm focusing on the God.
Mhm.
But, then I have other people in my spiritual realm who come at me that basically and I do understand that emotions have a huge component when it comes to our health. I get
Yes.
it. I have a bookshelf full of books that talk about that.
Mhm.
I understand what they're saying. And I do spend a lot of time in meditation with healing energy. But I promise you, when someone tells you they have cancer, they do not want you to turn around and say, well, you know what? That's because you were living in fear, or that's because you weren't meditating enough, or that's because you need to do this, or that because they need to do that. I already know.
That is judging.
Yeah.
It is judging. And I know most people mean it from well-meaning heart. And you also have to consider your relationship with the person who's telling you this news.
Yep.
What is your relationship with them?
Yeah.
Because when my friends come at me and say, Christy, here's a great meditation, or here is this, or, let's do some trance hypnosis, something like that, I'm going to take it much better than someone who I don't know well.
Yes, exactly.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna say something different to someone that's really close to me than to someone that's not really close to me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'll be a little more generic with someone that's not close to me, but I'll be
Yes.
supportive and loving. But with someone that's close to me, I'm going to be hugging them and kissing them and talking to them and praying with them and for them. So,
Right. And so Jolene is the one who does my hair. So I told her early on, no pressure, Jolene, but you're in charge of my hair and I don't want to.
yeah.
And so instantly she's like, okay, well, you need to take your vitamins. You need to do this. And so, yes. So someone like her, I was giving her permission. Give me advice.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to give it to her too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And then some people that are close enough to me, they know I'll take their advice without, soliciting. So I think that people just really need to consider because like you said, that's judgy. It is so judgy when you come at someone and say, and this of course is not, I've had people that have lost kids and, especially when I do, and friends or random internet people. Well, you didn't raise them right and they were hanging with a bad crowd. Or, you should have seen that this was going on. No.
Yeah, right.
No,
No, that's not how it works. Sorry.
No.
Is that how it works for them? I wonder.
Oh my goodness. I love that, Jolene. Is that how it works for them?
That's how it
Oh my
works.
goodness. I love that. Yeah, you better be very careful when you start judging someone, because how many of us have been taught, by, I hate to use the word karma, but have you learned early on that when you judge someone or when you pass judgment, that's going to come back and you're going to be taught.
Well, the old phrase, never say never.
Right,
It'll
yeah.
come right back to you.
Uh-huh.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
And so I've always wondered what people are thinking whenever, and I have to think that they have other people's best interest at heart. But if someone has told you their child is sick, or they've just lost a child, um, well, you know what was going to happen. They had a drug problem. You knew it was going to happen.
Yeah. Oh
Oh,
dear.
man, that's
That's
hard. That's
totally,
hard to hear.
that's totally not
It's hard to
okay.
hear. Yeah.
But you know what, Christy? I think so many people, they do not know what to say.
Yeah.
So they're backpedaling. And I think it's not about them, it's about you or the person that's going through the trauma, but they make it about them. And that's, they don't have, they just don't know what to do. So they basically put their foot in their mouth.
Yeah. That's a good way. Yeah.
And that maybe that's our part to say, oh, okay, bless their heart. They don't know. Because some people do know, some people have studied, some people are more aware. Some
Yes.
taught us that some people are higher level spiritually and they do know what to do, or they've learned.
Or they've learned.
Learned it from experience. But
Experience, yeah.
some of those people that are just tripping over their feet, I think they bless their hearts. Maybe this is our time to just let them go and be aware that they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think that I love what Cathy just said when she just said, let them go, because it is very much about setting healthy boundaries.
That's it.
There it is.
And, I am in the public eye a bit. And it's not like I'm some huge celebrity, but I do have a big enough following that people have access to me.
Mm-hmm.
More
Yeah.
access to me than they would, with some other people. And because people have access to me, they think that they have the authority or the right to give me their opinion.
Right. And I've learned to let some things go in one ear and out the other.
Yes.
And not make a fuss over it, because again, it's like, okay, they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yes.
I think they want to be helpful and supportive, but they don't know how. So it's like, okay, let's just not talk about that. Or
And then when you do that, when you let them go, you're kind of protecting yourself and you're making that boundary.
Which is
It's
boundaries.
kind of a, it's kind of a circle there.
And I've always come at things, because I agree. This is, you have to let them go. And I do, I will kind of chuckle. Like when people come at me with something, I'm like, oh my goodness, honey. But what makes me sad is that I am a pretty emotionally healthy person. I have a very strong support system. As you know, I have some beautiful friends. I mean, when I told y'all were instantly was like, oh my God. And Cathy's like, I'm praying, And Jolene's like, I'm like, Jolene, you're in charge of my hair. She's like, vitamins, and I'm praying too. So I have a great support system. So all of my support system has come at me, and I know that I can rally around them. So I feel strong. And when you're strong, it's not easy, but it's much easier to just let people go and set up healthy boundaries.
Yes.
When people come at me with those, what I consider inappropriate comments or things that are like, yeah, that's not no. I think about if they're saying that to someone who does not have a good support system, who is not emotionally healthy, that's going to have a much bigger effect on them than it did on me.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And that's all part of setting boundaries, is when you hear something like that, my guard goes up and it's like,
Wait a minute.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm only going to listen to half of this. The other half goes in one ear and out the other, because I'm going to protect myself.
Mhm.
And I've learned over the years how to do that.
Yeah. It takes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it, love it, love it. Now we're going to break it down and put you ladies on the spot again. So these podcasts are about, I start with talking points and then we kind of roll into it. So Jolene, how have you learned to do that? So what is your go-to? Say you're, talking to someone, you're in this deep conversation and they say something like, well, you should have done this and you need to do this. And you can just tell it's coming from a place of judgment. How do you cut that off?
I guess I only listen to what I want to hear. I kind of have to change a subject sometimes.
Yes, yes.
Or change it enough that I don't want to put them on the spot by saying you are really judging. And
that's not helpful either.
Yeah. Or I hope you're not saying this to everybody you know.
Yeah.
Also not helpful, yes.
Yeah. But I'm the one in charge at that moment of me. I get to be in charge of me. So I get to set the limits and listen to what I want to hear, change a subject if I need to, especially with all the political stuff that was happening a couple of years ago. Whoa, in a salon, when you hear all that, you just change that subject right away and get them off of that subject sometimes, because if I'm not on the same page as them and they don't like that, I have to let them know that I can believe the way I want. I can do what I want, and I know what's good for me, and I know what's healthy for me. So I will kind of put them in set them right in their tracks, but in a nice way. I'm never mean, and I don't want to judge because they just judge.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
Or God loves everybody. That's a good one. God loves everybody the way you are.
Yeah.
You are perfect the way you are.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how about you, Cathy?
That's a segue into, I learned from a dear friend years ago. He would say, well, bless your heart.
Instead of,
And it neutralizes it. I learned that. The other thing, which is a little bit more assertive, and this was more with men that were inappropriate, but I would say, pardon me, would you repeat that? And it kind of makes them stop and think, and it puts a real white light, a barrier around you, because they will stop and they'll go, oh, wait a minute. And some people won't stop, but it helps me. It helps me pat myself on the back and say, you're not gonna take this.
yeah.
Because we don't have to.
I think that you ladies just gave two beautiful ways of handling things, because it's going to be about, what kind of situation you're in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think those are two beautiful ways of being able to diffuse situations. Jolene was talking about it's more if you're just kind of in a casual conversation and people are delving into a conversation, you're like, oh, this is going anywhere that's not really appropriate. And like Cathy's was a little bit more when you want someone to hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
And you're like, did you just hear what you said? And you don't say it. You don't say it like that. It's can you repeat that? I'm sorry. Because when they have to think back through the words and say them again, and then they maybe can understand the impact more.
Yeah.
And I do know whenever, like in my own situation, whenever people would come at me over, you need to get closer to God or whatever, I don't. Because of what I do for a living, I do a lot of what sitting in what's called the power, channeling God's love. And so I always have this ball of love around me.
Yes.
And so that's how I protect. Some people in my industry will protect with crystal balls. Some people will correct with disco balls or something to deflect. So whatever you're sending at me goes back. I really protect with just a ball of love, so that when you send something to me, if it's negative, it's kind of diffused and dropped off.
Yes.
So whenever people come at me, I really try to look for the love in their statements when they're coming at me.
That is good. Look for the love.
I'm not good. And this is coming at me now. there's some situations that where Kathy said is very appropriate. If they are like judging others, if they're judging someone because of their lifestyle, that is a very appropriate time to say,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Uh-huh.
Because if you say it like that, they're going to instantly know, yeah, I'm not on board with you
Yeah.
judging someone's lifestyle. Or if you're in a casual conversation with a friend, you don't want to create a rift. What Jolene said is very good of steering the conversation away,
Mhm.
or just saying, well, that's their choices and God loves everyone.
God
Mhm.
loves everyone.
Everyone. Yeah.
I don't encourage what I'm about.
They kind of want to get you on their little page.
They do.
It's
Yes,
like,
they
I'm
do.
not going there.
Absolutely, they do.
Yeah.
I do a lot of TikTok lives where I will read, like a group of people, and there can be several hundred people on these lives. And of course, you always have what you call your trolls, people that get on there, and according to what their responses are to me is how I deal with them. I never come back negatively.
No.
But the most negative I will ever get is when people say, Jesus loves you. I was like, yes, Jesus does love me. He loves you too. He loves everyone, the saint, the sinner, and the hypocrite.
Yes.
And try to just kind of diffuse it that way.
It's kind of like we were always taught early on, you wear a different hat for every client.
Yes.
Oh,
So I know
That's
that person
good,
is
yeah.
spiritual, and I'm gonna be on her page with that. I know there's this person is a partier and a biker, and I'm gonna be on that page with him, in a nice way, and support
Right.
it. Support it. Yes. And then so how can you even talk to that kind of person? Because they're a nice person. They don't believe maybe what you believe, but God loves them just the same as God loves you.
Yes. In my family, I've always been called the small talker. You can put me in a crowd of anyone and I can talk because I can find something in common with absolutely anyone. Just about. It can be, a certain kind of food. Then we'll talk about that. It can be a vacation they just had. We'll talk about that. It can be whatever. There is something you can find that's a common denominator between all people. If they have kids, everyone loves their kids.
Yep. Grandkids. Yeah.
You can find a common denominator for everyone. I have laughed about the hardest thing to me about the cancer diagnosis was not hearing it myself, but telling people.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Because then you're managing their emotions also.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And my favorite, honestly, some of my favorite responses from some of my friends were when they would just look at me in this moment of shock and they just go into a tirade of cuss words.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
And it kind of like that was so their personality. So it just kind of made me laugh. And
sometimes it makes everybody feel better.
but that's my own personal, I like laughter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my own personal personality is I like laughter. And I have just found it very annoying. I know that sounds terrible for people out there listening, but everyone accepts these diagnoses differently and incorporates the trauma, the grief, whatever it is into their life differently. And mine was annoyance.
Oh,
my calendar, I love what I do so incredibly much. Hopefully that comes through. Anyone who watches me work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And I've worked hard to grow my business. And so there wasn't one time when I received this diagnosis and I was looking at my calendar that they could have given me any day for an appointment or a treatment that I was not going to have to move appointments around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Oh, I know.
I don't have time.
I don't want you to have to do that either.
I don't have time for this. Yeah.
Right. And so now, and that is something else because I was, and I know, again, people are trying to be helpful. And I know some people do overwork themselves. I just I just love what I do so much. And the more I read people and the more I help others heal, the better I feel and the more I feel like I heal. And on my calendar there, I do have time. I absolutely, if you look at my calendar any given time, there are times I have blocked for myself.
Good. That's good.
Whether it's for meditation, spending with my family, it is blocked out.
Good.
Mhm.
So, but again, whenever people would hear me say that, people are like, oh, but you have to take time for yourself. You have to do this, you have to do that. And this takes me back to what both you ladies have mentioned. Just be a listening ear.
Yes,
Yes,
that's right.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm not much of a
absolutely.
complainer, but every once in a while,
Yeah,
Well, I agree with you. Sometimes I just have to.
yes.
you do.
So then
Yes.
I'll complain to you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, to a person, it's kind of like called a safe place. That
Yes.
just listen to me. I mean, we both do that. And
Mhm.
it's just listen to me. I don't want it to go anywhere, but what does this sound like? And it's a very safe, because you know it's not going to go anywhere else.
Right.
And I think that's very healthy. The other thing I love, Christy, and since I've met you and coming to you, I've always believed this, but you color everything with love. And this is flipping the thing when people crash your boundaries now. Your growth is going to be probably through this, but also with you're just going to come back with total love and let them go, but let them go with love. I just cannot.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful way to live. And maybe this is how you're going to get through this with all the people that they will be inappropriate questions and behavior, you know that.
But again, you
Mhm.
pick them out, get rid of those and absorb the ones that are good for you.
Yeah.
You know, Kathy I always say in my industry that everyone is intuitive. Everyone has the ability to be a medium, because as a medium, I'm just tapping back into heaven. No one would God would not have put certain people on earth without the ability to tap back to heaven, which is our home, without giving it to everyone. There are Michael Jordans of it, and there are people playing on the court. And I know that I have excelled so much because I've done so much training and so much practice. I'm saying that because Kathy, if I said to her, was able to get downloads from the other side, would be like, but I think what she just said to me was an actual download from the other side, because a lot of trained psychic mediums have said to me exactly what Kathy just said.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
So I say all that because this is what I call when spirit uses those around us to give us information. Spirits use Kathy, and because I've gotten that from a lot of other people, that I do not. And my daughter, the day after, the day I found out. So then the next day, I found out on a Friday afternoon. The next day was Saturday. I had an event that night, Saturday night. My oldest daughter messages me and she says, "How are you doing? Are you okay?" I said, "Are you going to your group tonight?" I said, "Yeah, of course I'm going to my group tonight. I'm on the treadmill." And she just said, "LOL. Somehow I knew it would be back to programming is scheduled for you."
Yep. Yep. Back to the regularly scheduled programming.
Right. But that's my way of dealing with it. It doesn't mean that it's going to be everyone. So if anyone's listening, don't think that you have to do what I do. That's just what works for me.
Exactly.
And I'm always looking at, okay, you know what? This sucks. And I have to accommodate it in my schedule, and I don't really like it. But
yeah, I wouldn't like it either.
What can I learn from it? What positivity can I pull from it?
That's it.
And before we went to do this podcast, I had just gotten a text from another medium who was in meditation. She said, it came to me that you are going to be able to come out of this spreading more love. Because anytime I'm backed up into a wall, which this is, a diagnosis like this is something that kind of pushes you back, I always push forward with love.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always turn to God and say, bring
yes.
it. I need it. Infuse me with love so I
Yes.
can move forward.
You'll come out of this smarter,
Yeah.
healthier,
Yeah.
and more loving.
Yes, absolutely. Those are my goals.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally believe that.
I do too.
Yeah.
And I do already feel myself, as I think everyone should do this, no matter who you are, cinch up your boundaries.
Yes.
I already feel myself.
You are in control of you.
Yes.
Don't let someone hurt you. Don't let someone judge you. Do what you need to do. Change the subject or just question them. What did you just say? Yeah.
And, if you can get away from them, then get away.
Yeah.
Get away. Oh,
There you
yeah,
go.
absolutely.
There, and I will say there are some groups I'm probably pulling back from a little bit, just because whenever you have had something that you need that's emotionally charged happen to you, no matter how strong you are going to experience vulnerability off and on.
Yes.
And it's in those moments of vulnerability that other people's opinions can kind of get to you.
Oh, yeah. I've been there
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
Yes. And sometimes before you know it, if you don't catch it, you're like almost taking on that opinion. And so when I feel myself doing that, I will hear that opinion in my head and I will say, I don't accept that. That's not part of me.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't
Mhm.
accept that.
No.
Yeah. And before I was stronger, it wears on you. It changes you, you know, if you don't have your boundaries up,
Mhm.
all of a sudden you feel less of a person. You can feel
Yeah.
like no worth. You
Right.
start feeling bad and you get depressed.
Mhm.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's what whenever someone comes at me with negativity, that's what makes me feel bad about it, as I know they're turning that on someone who has not learned to set up good boundaries, someone
yes,
who does not have a good support system. And though that may not be affecting me, I have a huge heart for other people and knowing that they are hurting others.
yeah, that's just it. It's like, are you really saying that to other people?
Yeah.
Right.
I might be able to handle myself, but
Yeah.
somebody else might not be able to.
Yeah. So
Exactly. And it makes me feel kind of a little bit sad.
Yeah, that's
And
yeah.
And if anyone can take anything away from this, think about what you would want to hear.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, just put yourself in that situation. You've just lost a child. It does not matter what kind of parenting that child had at that moment,
No.
No.
because
No.
we've all made mistakes as parents. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Doesn't matter.
It's like
Lifetime
put their shoes on and
Yeah.
stand in them for a little while and
Yep.
hear what you're saying. So that's nothing anybody wants to hear.
Yeah. And I know people think that saying, I'm so sorry is, well, everyone says that,
Yeah,
right?
Everyone.
Because you can't go wrong with it.
No.
true.
It's not,
and it is true.
yes.
You are sorry,
Yeah.
Right.
But they've heard it enough. Yeah.
but you've got to say more than that almost.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I have such a heart for you. I love you. I'm surrounding, whatever your words, my words are, I'm so sorry. I have such a heart for you. I'm surrounding you in love and light, and I mean it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or I'm praying for you.
and I'm here for you.
Yes.
Call me anytime,
Mhm.
And I mean it. Call me anytime.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
And I
also
have had a couple of people say that to me, and they will say, I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, call me. And I
Uh-huh.
know they mean it.
yes,
Yes. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. You know yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think the moral of all this is you're never going to, there's two sides of it. The person receiving the news, and what your response is going to be, you're never going to go wrong leading with love.
Mhm.
Never. Never. Mm-mm.
And do not veil, I want to caution this hugely, do not veil your judgment in love. Do not try to, but I was giving them love by telling them what they need to know.
You don't know. You do not tell them at this time what they need to
No,
do.
again, you got to hear what you're saying.
Yeah. But
Right. How many times have y'all known people to say they will judge others and they will just say, well, I was just loving them. I was just giving them my loving advice. No.
no.
They're just trying to make an excuse for themselves, I guess, but
They're making an excuse as a reason to judge.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Or when they say, I always love it when they say, well, the Bible calls us to, what is that? Hold others accountable or shine the light on the sin or, yeah, well, let's leave that to Jesus.
It's not. Yeah. That's out of your realm. Yeah.
Yeah, I always, I joke, but I'm not joking absolutely at all. Y'all probably heard me say it, that when people talk about who's in heaven, this person's not in heaven. I was like, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. Anyone I've ever gone looking for is over there. People who that, and I always say that's the reason Jesus didn't give me the book.
Mhm.
He does not have me at heaven's gate with the book, because I've been like, Jesus, I think you made a mistake. This name is not supposed to be on here.
Get a pencil, erase that one.
Right. That's the reason he did not put me or any other human in charge.
In charge.
Right.
That's
Of
right.
the book.
Our job is to love. And
Right.
sometimes that can be hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't quite know how, but our job is to love.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And then as the person who is in the position of dealing with a grief or a trauma or, bad news like I received, is to understand that you are loved unconditionally by God. Look, there is always something positive you can take out of every situation. Always something. And try to focus on that and cinch up your boundaries.
Yes.
And if there's anything I've learned from knowing you, Christy, is that every situation you can find love in that situation. Look for it. But you have taught me so much, Christy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And sometimes I admit you do have to dig deep for that.
Sometimes you really gotta get creative.
Oh my, you do.
Okay, I gotta get creative on this one.
You're digging through all the ashes and you have your hair tweezers and you're like, look, oh look, I found it. Here, look.
There it is.
Yep. It could be a treasure hunt sometimes. but-
Yes, it is. Oh my
But you
goodness,
do.
that is so true. So do you ladies have any last parting words of advice for our viewers?
Be strong
Yeah.
and know yourself, guard yourself, and look for the love.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And we were talking a little bit before this about maybe we get fearful when we set a boundary because we're going to be left. We're going to be
Alone.
we had touched on that your friend, the people that are used to you bowing down and being the floor mat, won't like it when you say, wait a minute, you put the boundary up. But
But sometimes those people aren't your friends.
Yeah, come on, get over that fear, and you're going to be healthier without them.
Right.
And,
Well,
but it's not easy.
Sometimes a narcissist, for one example, they love that control and they like to beat you down in that corner. And if you can be strong and stand up for yourself and know how to guard yourself, that person might not like you anymore or might not like the lack of control, but then that person really isn't someone you need to be friends with.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because also it can be family. And just because someone has a relationship title does not give them access to manipulate you,
Yes.
to constantly pour negativity into your life. And I know there's someone in my family who I haven't talked to in several years. It's actually my mother, and people are, you need to talk to her. I can't imagine not talking to your mother. And I always say, I'm glad you cannot imagine that, because by the time you get to a point where you can no longer have a relationship with someone who was such an intricate part in your life, you cannot imagine the hurt you've gone through and how much you've put up with.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
But to self-heal, to protect yourself. And and I also want to say, just because you don't have contact with someone doesn't mean you haven't forgiven them.
Right.
exactly. Yes.
I think I was able to forgive my mom so much more efficiently, so much more clearly by not having, because I wasn't constantly exposed to that.
And you can forgive, but you don't have to forget.
Right. You have to protect yourself.
Yes. And
And-
be ready.
Yeah, Kathy was right. You have to think about if someone has constantly manipulated you. I think of it as the toddler who, you have given it, who wanted the sucker. So the toddler wants a sucker, and the first time they throw a fit for 10 minutes, you give in. Well, now you've just taught them to throw the
Yeah.
fit for 10
Of
minutes.
course.
The next time you're not going to do it. You wait 15 minutes. Now you've taught them to throw the fit for 15 minutes, and you're going to
That's-
and it keeps up and up and up. And that's the reason, so now you've taught this toddler to now scream for 30 minutes, and you're going to eventually give in. That's what you've taught them.
Yeah.
And it's just their way of getting their way, because that's the most important thing in the world to them right now is that sucker. Same thing with adults around you. If you've taught them, if you've allowed them to manipulate you, and you start pulling away and putting up a boundary, they're just going to come at you harder and harder, because that's what they're used to doing.
Yes, because you said you teach them.
We teach people how to treat us.
We do.
That's what it
And
is.
what you allow is what will continue. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's such a, yeah.
So true.
But the hook, I think that I start out with is the fear of not being liked. I know that personally that happened to me, and that I won't be included, and
You'll be alone.
popular, I'll be
Yes.
alone. And my lesson was I'm never alone. We touched on
There you
that
go.
the other day. So I think facing that fear of standing up for yourself and saying, you know what, this isn't okay.
No.
And I don't care if I'm going to be alone or not. I'm
Right.
not doing
And
it.
just even if you're alone, it doesn't mean you're lonely
No.
and sad.
Yeah.
It's
No.
true, though. A lot of people do have that fear of being alone or ostracized by, then now there's family functions and they're not invited. And that's hurtful.
Yeah.
That's another hurt.
Very hurtful. Yeah. Yeah.
Or there is, there's a group of friends who you were always in the inner circle and always did things with them. And now they're doing things without you. And it's all over social media that they're out doing, having fun, and you
In
are
your
not
home.
invited.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's very hurtful.
It's hurtful, but sometimes it's probably better. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to look at the other side. You got to be strong and realize, you know what? I don't need to be in that little group.
What I have found is that when that happens, to look at that and think about, how did I feel? Because if you have pulled yourself away from a group, something about that group made you not feel right.
Yes.
So what was it? Tap into that feeling. What feeling made you not feel right when you were in that group?
Yeah.
Were you doing something that at a heart level you knew that you shouldn't? Were you involved in conversations that made you feel icky? Was there someone who was constantly being passive aggressive?
Yeah.
It's much easier to just sit by yourself, read a book, go for a hike, hang out with your dog, whatever your thing is,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and focus on that instead of.
Yeah. Be strong and look
Mhm.
inside of yourself and find that love.
And it takes the other part of that, my own experience, it takes a lot of energy to try to keep measuring up to that group.
Yes.
That takes a lot of energy. And finally, when we let go, it's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
I don't need to do that anymore.
It's easier and it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is one thing I can say is I've gotten older as I've become a psychic medium and really gotten more into who I am at a soul level, is to just be able to stand and know I'm okay with who I am.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Like, it doesn't matter if my friends have a bigger business. It doesn't matter if, from the outside looking in, their family looks all perfect. No.
No.
Yeah. And it does come with a little bit of age and experience that you feel that way.
Mhm.
It
It's like,
does.
I am just
I'm
fine
okay.
by myself,
Right.
or I'm fine doing what I'm doing.
And actually, I prefer this to the other.
Yeah.
I'm choosing it, which is very powerful, don't you think?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's my choice to, no, I'm not going there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, ladies, so much for meeting with me today. Always
Oh,
love our chats. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Love you.
We love you.
If
Yeah.
anyone has any comments or questions, please email me, christygod1111@gmail.com. How you can contact me, make appointments, whatever is going to be in the verbiage of this podcast. Also, just Google Christy, God One Psychic Medium I have a website. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all over the social medias.
All right.
Love and